Next, let's queer up the USA view. HRC launches $15 million campaign to mobilize equality voters to support Joe Biden. The Human Rights Campaign recently announced the launch of a $15 million initiative, We Show Up, Equality Wins, aimed at mobilizing 75 million identified equality voters ahead of the November elections. This effort seeks to combat anti-trans attacks and secure significant victories for Democrats, including the re-election of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. HRC's strategy includes field programs, events, and advertising in 6 key battleground states: Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Nevada. Studies show the number of equality voters has grown from 62 million in 2022 to 75 million in 2024. These voters represent a diverse coalition united by a commitment to LGBTQ+ equality. On the occasion of the recently launched initiative, HRC President Kelley Robinson stated, quote, LGBTQ+ voters and our allies are going to make the difference in the 2024 elections. With everything at stake, we have no other choice. Trump and his MAGA allies are promising a hate-filled agenda, but we refuse to go back, end quote. HRC will also support LGBTQ+ congressional candidates in California, Texas, New York, and Delaware with year-round staff in these states since 2017 and plans to expand for the upcoming election. It can't go, obviously, without an episode that I get to be on about saying how important it is to vote in this upcoming election. Yep. I know, working alongside with the task force, again, focusing on their Queer the Vote initiative again this cycle. And I like that they're highlighting, of course, the national elections. One of the things I think is also important is to make sure that voters out there are looking at the, again, everything from school board to city commission. I know in Hollywood specifically, we have a MAGA ally running in the city commission race this year who ran 2 years ago, but I was very involved in that race. So, don't just look at the top of the ticket. And I hope the HRC comes in here and helps support our Senate candidate, Debbie Murkosel-Powell, who may have a very good chance of unseating Lex Luthor here in Florida.
I look at what HRC is doing, and as someone who's both worked at LGBTQ groups and worked in queer media, I always try to remind members of queer media that we really need to describe a group like HRC as, they're advocacy groups. They're nice people that advocate for LGBTQ rights, but at the end of the day, queer community hasn't elected any of these people. Kara Johnson at the task force, love her. No one elected her to anything. And, there are membership organizations like state parties or DSA that they elect their leadership. And HRC at this time, I was seeing, they're talking about equality voters, but they were talking about marginalized groups. But I looked at the polling of that. Young people, according to Harvard Youth Poll, ABC News on queer voters, Black voters, and Latino voters, according to NBC, their top issue is all the economy. So when I hear a group like HRC do this, I'm like, are you actually representing these voters? It's one thing if you're advocating for us. That's great, educate voters. But what I'm hearing from HRC right now, it doesn't make the most sense. Where are they getting the money? Why are they picking these states? What's going on with that?
Good question.
Those are super important questions, and I think you're right. That is, I was also like Jeff, and I was also thinking, one, I wish I saw Florida on that list because I don't think Florida's a lost case. We're here in Florida, I should just note. So that is, I'm constantly thinking about Florida, and I don't think Florida's a lost cause. And too many people are thinking about Florida as just kind of now become a very clear tomato red state or something, that is tomato red, super red. That was a weird way of saying.
HRC has donated to Equality Florida in the past. I just don't know if this 15 million will include
it. It didn't include it in the story. That is, it wasn't among the 6 states that they're focusing their energies on. But it's not a lost cause. And I just think, but that's all for me to say. It's only going to make a difference if LGBTQ voters show up at the polls, right? And that's your point, Jeff. Right?
I always go back to, Florida has not always been a just red state. It has been a swing state for so long. It was blue for many years, so I agree with you. I don't think it's, something lost. But I will tell you this, as someone who, I do music and entertainment, that's my life. As someone who, I get a headache from too much politics, although I know the importance of voting, and I hope everyone at home knows how important it is to get out and vote. I didn't even know that this group called the Equality Voters existed. So seeing a jump and an increase feels like a small win. Is it not a small win? Should I not be celebrating that, or should we?
Well, I think it's a terminology of saying that someone is identifying as an equality voter.
Gotcha.
It's not like
Not a
any kind of...
It's not like an actual polled.
To be clear, HRC created the
Yes.
Like a-
so
like
the
a
PR.
brand.
I didn't want to say that, but
didn't,
yes.
but they didn't go around and get actual results, is what I'm saying. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm just asking because I know
that's a fair question.
Yeah.
That's sort of like the question that I had with
Yeah.
HRC
Gotcha.
about representation versus advocacy, and why we as queer media need to like really hammer in, like, HRC, we like it, but like you don't represent the community, you're advocating for it. And that's a difference that we sometimes forget in
That's a
queer
good point.
media.
That's a great point.
And, looking at it, like, I hope that they do some more to tell us, like, what their plan is in these 6 states. Because I did look at them, like, some of these states, like Michigan, I kind of get why they're going in Michigan, but at the same time, like, as someone who's, like, Michigan's going to be one on economic and foreign policy issues. I don't think equality is going to be the Michigan thing. But Florida, there's this, Julio, you made this great point. Abortion's on the ballot here.
Yeah.
Social issues are on the
And
ballot.
the numbers
Why
are
is
really
it not
close.
here?
Like,
Really close.
Really close.
Really.
Like that is like people are not the Zieglers of the world are not does not Florida make. Like that is like that Florida is actually pretty diverse. And
But
so too are its voting.
If I may, the bottom line, I think, is everyone has to go out and vote. Like, you can't afford to sit this one out. You have
Well
to go
said.
and vote